welcome to the Women's Bar Association of Illinois Cable Show. I'm Judge Patrice Ball-Reed, the past president of the Women's Bar, and my co-host is Judge Jessica Arong O'Brien, who is the current president of the Women's Bar Association. We had a previous session where we were speaking with Justice Ann Burke, and because there was so much information, it was so exciting and so much fun, we had to do some more. So we're going to speak with Justice Burke again, and Judge O'Brien is going to begin to speak with her now.
Justice, I want to start with your religious upbringing. I know that you went to Catholic school in grade school and then also in high school. And I know that your faith is very important to you. And I'm wondering now, as a judge, when you were an attorney, how has that influenced you in everything that you have done with your career?
Well, Jessica, I think it's, no matter how you're brought up, it's basically part of you your whole life. Your parents, whatever religion you're in, or if you're in no religion, if you're being taught good, moral, ethical living, it's part of your fabric. It's part of everything you do, the way you think. And I don't consider myself a religious person, but that's just who I am. I try to go to my church often. You know, when I'm in Springfield, I go in the morning. When I'm here, I try to go often, as much as possible. But I think it's at the everyday conduct that you abide by in your life that you try to keep yourself intact with some sort of a faith base. And the only time I experienced some questioning was when I was on the National Review Board for the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, that investigating the sexual abuse crisis with the clergy in the church. And I did that for a few years and chaired that investigation. But I think I didn't question my faith at all, but in fact probably emboldened my faith more than anything, because when you think about what people do, it's human beings, and we're all vulnerable. We all are vulnerable, and no matter, we do things we are not proud of, and we all say things we're not proud of. But that really was something that put me on I think, kind of a plane where I had to think about that all the time, that these are human beings making very bad decisions about very heinous crimes. And that's what happened with the bishop's investigation, is that, of course, people who are attracted to youngsters that's been going on since the beginning of time. And in our society, it is a crime. And the church, as well as other organizations, not just the Catholic Church, I think violated the trust people had in them by not making them be part of the criminal justice system or filing charges.
That must have been a very difficult project.
It was. It was
how
very
did that
difficult.
come about? With being
I was appointed to that board through the bishops. They wanted to have a National Review Board, a lay board, do the investigation. So I was one of the first three appointed. Myself, Governor Keating from Oklahoma, and Bob Bennett. He was the former Clinton lawyer, you might recall, out of Washington, D.C. Right. So the three of us were the first three on the board, and we developed who else would be on the board with the bishop's approval, the local bishop's approval. So people like Leon Panetta, he was on the board. Bill Burley, who was head of Scripps Howard, the largest publishing company in the world, he was on the board. We had some psychiatrists. We had a man by the name of Michael Bland, who was a former priest who was a victim of sexual abuse. And we investigated in the United States. So if anyone saw the movie Spotlight, that is right on point. The people that they discussed in that movie, Richard Sipe, Tom Doyle, and Bishop Darcy, I met, I knew, I worked with.
So how did the project end? Did you just transition off the board and someone else took your place?
Yes.
Okay, so the board is still in existence.
The board is, and really haven't kept up with it, but the initial was the investigation and the report, and we commissioned John Jay College of Criminal Justice to commission how many victims, how many offenders there may be in the United States in the last 50 years. And then we wrote a report on that.
Mm-hmm. So that was a serious project for you. Emotionally, once you finished it, what were you able to do? Because you had to come back out of that. That had to be difficult.
That's a point that it's like anything we do, you get so engaged and so involved, and then you start to realize after the impact of what you do. And I think that's important for all of us, especially lawyers and women lawyers, is that, you know, you work on a trial, you work on a project, and we have to know that whatever you're doing is really important. And we want people to work on these projects, even though it is hard. And it does take a toll on you emotionally. But if you have any grounding, whether it's faith or moral ethical living that you've learned from your parents and your grandparents and your family, you're able to get through that and move on. Actually, you learn a lot by that process.
You've still been active with, like, for example, the Catholic Lawyers Guild. You were on the board.
Yes.
I was on the board too, but I'm not so sure I have contributed significantly. But
no, I don't either, but I think it's important to be, because no matter how long you're on a board, whether it be the Women's Bar Association or anything, you give it your best shot, and you do contribute. You never know. Isn't it interesting how you work with somebody and you never know how they've taken to you or if they've listened to you? I'll never forget when I was an attorney in a divorce case for two children whose parents were going through a very tough divorce. And the young girl, who was 12, for a whole year I'd meet with the boy and the girl for a whole year, talk about a lot of things, tell them what the possibilities were, what's happening in their parents' case. I wanted to know what their grades were. This young girl would not talk to me for a whole year, and then the judge proceeded to make a judgment, and then I never heard again. And I think that's what happens to us, doesn't it? That you never hear back whatever happens. However, in this case, about 10 years ago, I got a letter from this young woman, and she says, "You may not remember me," and she told me her name. She says, I want to apologize, but I listened to everything you said, and I wanted to be just like you. So she became a lawyer. She worked in the state's attorney's office, and she is working in a non-for-profit organization now. We did meet, but I mean, that was a miracle in itself, being able to hear that actually somebody did listen to you. Now, you don't expect that, and I don't do things to hear back, but it's nice once in a while to be affirmed in that you really did make a difference. Even just the words you use when you talk to other people. So you have to be mindful of being patient and saying kind things to people, because it does make a difference.
We're going to take a break on that note, and we're going to return in a few minutes to talk some more with Justice Ann Burke.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
I dare you to be somebody important.
Like be a teacher. Or a reality TV star.
I dare you to stand up here.
To call the shots.
To be a role model.
An inspiration.
An innovator.
To be a teacher. Be my teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you.
Have a career that really means something?
Then do it.
I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. I'm waiting.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Justice Ann Burke, and we ended on a note talking about how someone can affect your life, or you can affect someone's life without even knowing it. And so being kind and being conscientious and listening is an important aspect of who you are as a person, and you should continue to do that, because you never know what's going to happen in your own life or another person's life. But we're going to talk with Justice Burke some more, because she's given us such great pearls of wisdom. So Jessica, more questions?
Well, Justice, you know what? Actually, the second surprise you're going to get is, I think I interviewed you for that article that was published regarding the Special Olympics, and I think one of the things that you had mentioned was you have to be careful with what you say to people, because you don't know how that you're going to take them. Like just the way that girl that you represented.
Yes.
I spoke to you about becoming the president and going forward with being the president of the Women's Bar Association of Illinois, and I think it was at that point when I was putting my name in for the second VP.
Okay.
And I have to tell you that the majority of the people around me told me, "You're already a judge. Why do you even need a position of leadership? You already got what you want." You were the only one who actually told me, if it's in your heart, then you go for it. And I will never forget that. And I've never told you that, and I'm telling you
I was
now.
yeah, that is a surprise.
So I am where I am today because of you. It gives me a teary eye because even my husband was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Maybe you want to spend time with your kids." And of course, I would love to spend time with my kids, but I think
it's not it's not this or that.
Right.
You know, it's both.
Well, I think it's also good for them to see that their mom is taking on important leadership positions, and hopefully that will inspire them. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, you should. You should never. You know, who wants to wake up the next day and say, "I wish I had done something"? That's not in my DNA. I want to be able to, make decisions, pros and cons, on the ability of my ability to do things, physically and mentally and whatever. But if I really want to do something, I'm going to do it, because I don't want to say, "I wish I had done something."
No regrets.
No
That's
regrets.
always a good thing.
Yeah.
So in terms of women out there who are facing challenges, like you said, you're dyslexic, as well as being an older woman trying to make some transition and change your life, what advice would you give them in terms of accomplishing that and going forward?
Well, they have to look at their own life, where they are in their own life, and what their responsibilities are around them. I was fortunate to have a lot of support from my husband, and my mom was alive at the time, so she was able to take over a little bit with the kids. But outside of that, even today, you still need support. I mean, even at where I am today, you still need help. Everybody needs help. Nobody can do anything on their own.
I agree with
Nothing. And when you're down and out, sometimes you're thinking, "Oh, I just can't do it." You just have to get yourself together. So you ought to take a day off and walk around the block a couple of times and just get your head cleared and just
That sounds like a good
get
idea.
started again.
They say when you move up in leadership, and especially when you get to the top, and I consider your position, obviously you're in the top in the Illinois judiciary, and it's harder to find your true friends. So when you talk about finding people that you want to talk to and just air out how you really feel, it must be difficult to find, because I don't know, you wouldn't know, is this person just being my friend because I'm in my position? Like, how do you go through that and figure out who your true friends are when you get to your level?
Yes. You do have to be careful. There's only a few friends, real true friends, that I can have very personal conversations with. And those people have been my friends my whole life. It's pretty grounded. You know who your friends are. Now, I have wonderful associate friends that I'm very friendly with and have a wonderful time, but they're not the intimate friends that you're speaking of. And you don't need a whole lot of friends for that. You just need good people that love you and trust you and will listen to you, just to listen. Yeah. And so you don't need a whole bunch of friends. I have a lot of friends. I don't like to think people are always calling me for lunch or dinner because they want something. I'll be happy to go to lunch or dinner just to be friendly and to meet new people. But if they do ask for something, I'll try. Why not? If it's in my ability to do something, I'll always try to help someone. And so I really try not to let that get in my way.
We're going to take a break here on that note, and we're going to come back and ask some more questions of Justice Ann Burke.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
We have been speaking with Justice Ann Burke, and so we're going to talk some more with her about leadership and other things that we're going to go into the future with, as well as giving some good advice about what you can do now. So, Judge Ann?
Justice, being in the Supreme Court, really, we view you, of course, Judge Borid and I view the Supreme Court as the leaders of the judiciary, and you've certainly seen many of us, not just from the bar world, but leadership in different commissions and in different organizations.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, what do you think makes a good leader?
Having good people surrounding them who want to improve. So if the lawyers in Illinois didn't want to better themselves, then how could we do anything to improve if they weren't willing to feel good about themselves? I think our whole profession is based on trying to improve from the ground up, and we could order people to do things, but that doesn't engage them into wanting to improve. So the Women's Bar Association is doing things all the time to improve society through women working together to help do that. And at the same time, you may not realize it, but they're improving themselves while they're doing that, because they're learning leadership skills in organizing events, doing public relations, raising money, and those are all leadership skills that by just doing, other people notice and learn from. So it isn't like you can take a book and learn leadership skills. You can read about it, but it doesn't help. You have to do it.
Okay.
So if you're going to have a clothes drive for the women who are in jail, Cook County Jail, it would be helpful. I was in court, Brown Court, one day, not that long ago, and a woman came in with a garbage bag over her. She clearly had some mental health issues, but where were the lawyers, the public defenders, the state's attorneys, and the sheriff's office helping to put some clothes on this woman that would make her presentable for court? That you need to see leadership. There should be, in that courtroom, there should have been somebody saying, or the judge, now please take Mrs. Smith out and bring her back with some appropriate clothes. You know, those kinds of things. And, you know, that would be a good project, is to make sure that everybody who appears in court is dressed properly, including the lawyers, because some of them are not. And that would be a really good goal to try to, is to improve. You know, it's like children who go to school who have uniforms on. They don't care about what everybody else wears because they all wear the same thing. And they're freer to think about other things. But if they are a distraction, I know that I shouldn't say this, but being on the appellate court and the Supreme Court, if someone isn't dressed in an appropriate way, it's a distraction and not paying attention to what they're saying. Or if somebody's out in the courtroom talking and being busy doing, that's a distraction. And so those kinds of things are distraction. But I think that the law profession, and especially women, should take audit of themselves often, you know, and say, now what can I do better to improve this recipe, which is me? You know, I can get, you know, I can be better, I can say kinder words, I can be nicer to people. You know, that other attorney who's been kind of giving me a hard time, be nice, you know, and maybe that other person will be nice too. So we can all, and so the system itself, even the systems can be improved through audits, and not take them personally that you're doing something wrong, but you just want to have the idea of improving. It isn't that you're doing anything wrong, it's just that you can do something better.
It's funny you should say that, because I read an article about saying, basically the idea was that the best leaders are those people who are able to look within themselves and see what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. So that's exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
The
And
thing
so
is-
leadership comes from underneath, really. It's not, we can all be told what to do, or I can have a writ of mandamus saying you got to do this. Well, that doesn't help. It doesn't get everybody engaged. And that's why it's important to have bar associations and have leaders in our profession start getting everybody motivated to do things from the ground level, and then we will do it as well.
The issue, though, with women leaders is that I think there's not many of us, especially in law firms and in corporations especially. And
It's not because you can't do it. It's because you haven't been elected by the law firm's hierarchy to do it.
Right.
And so that glass ceiling can be broken. Just keep on being tenacious
Pushing.
about it.
Pushing and pushing. And instead of thinking of it as famine, we can have a feast, right?
Well, sometimes, be careful what you wish for, because then you're going to be responsible for it too.
Yes, people volunteer you often when you come up with a suggestion. That is what happens.
Your term is, you're running in 2018.
2018, I assume I will be running for retention, God willing. I hope.
That's a good thing.
Is that even a question?
Well, life is interesting. You live every day and hope that you'll be healthy enough mentally and physically, and your family doesn't have the responsibilities of your family won't require me to not to do it. So
when you were working in the Park District, did you ever think in your wildest dream that you will be a Supreme Court justice?
I didn't even know what a Supreme Court justice was. You don't know. Why would you know? I mean, why would you pay any attention to that? All I cared about is Rayford Johnson, Rosie Greer, and phys ed people. Basketball players, football players.
What was your dream when you were working for the Park District, or when you were a kid? What did you want to be?
I just wanted to enjoy life, and I did. I didn't think there. I didn't think where I was going. I was just thinking about where I am today, and what I was doing was the best I could do. I never thought about what's to be. Never. I still don't.
That's a good note to end on, enjoying life. Well, thank you so much, Justice Burke. It was a
Patrice.
pleasure to talk with you today.
Likewise.
And allowing us to use your space. It's been a wonderful time. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in to our show. This has been the Women's Bar Association of Illinois cable show, and we look forward to you coming in to look at us again at some time in the future. Thank you so much.